Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Bold Book of the Day. My name is Dr. Denise Nicholson, and this podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. Today's episode is with author Gene Bennett. I finally got him here. He is a veteran who writes books detailing time in service and encouraging other vets to share their story. Welcome, Gene.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm happy you finally came here. I know that we had a meeting before and something happened. So I was looking forward, anticipating our meeting. I'm so happy that you're able to make it today, despite all of the other things that's going on. You made it here today. So thank you so much. How are you doing?
Oh, well, the caffeine should be kicking in any minute. I don't, because being a veteran, I am a caffeine addict, and there are a couple of those convoy habits I never broke. Like if I'm going anywhere for anything more than 30 continuous minutes, there must be caffeine in the car.
I hear you. Listen, I'm a coffee drinker also, but I'm mostly a tea person. So I understand, but I'm biased to teas.
Well, I'm trying to transition over to that because my doctors are really busting my chops about it. My friends are busting my chops about it. It really is time. So yeah, I'm trying to do that myself.
Well, everything takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your background and what inspired you to write We Did Not Deserve the Crapper?
Okay. I spent my first 4 years in the Marine Corps as a mechanic in a Marine infantry unit, and I'll tell you how that story happened. You'll get a kick out of this. I was 18 years old, and it was a classic case of my foul mouth overrode my good judgment. Now, you remember those big Cadillac DeVilles? They're like almost 2 Priuses long.
Yes.
My aunt had the Pontiac had an equivalent called the Pontiac Catalina. This thing was a garbage scow, dude. It was gargantuan. I mean, the trunk was big enough to fit 4 Marines with all their gear in it in the back. It's not joking, not even exaggerating. So I did something where I left my sister behind, and I still feel guilty about it to this day. And at a restaurant, because I saw some people who picked on me, you know what I'm saying, in school, and I wasn't taking it well. So I get back to my grandmother's house. My sister gets back to my grandmother's house, and we're driving home, and we drive home, and we're on the north side of Milwaukee. And my aunt, and she's yelling at me, and I'm like, whatever, bite me. I was in one of my moods. And we get off on a stop that we normally wouldn't get off on, and it's at a Goodwill homeless shelter. She pulls in her gargantuan Pontiac Catalina, opens the gargantuan hood or trunk door, gets my stuff out of my box that I forgot was in there. We walk into the homeless shelter. She drops my box on the ground right in front of the registration desk and starts to check me in. And she says, she just blurts out, it's either this or the military. And there was a guy who was about, I want to say 20 feet away from me. And he had the bottle of booze in the paper bag. And he's drinking it, and you could smell him as well as you could see him. It was bad. And I take one look at him, I take one look at my aunt, and I'm like, no way in hell I'm going out that way. So it's like, okay, I'll join the military. I spent my first 4 years in the Marine Corps, went from the Marine Corps because they wanted me to stay in the Marine Infantry Division, and I was what's called a POG, people other than grunts. And we support everybody who isn't a POG, or everybody who isn't a grunt is a POG, and the POGs support the grunts. And it's that brother-sister rivalry where you really want to punch each other in the face, but there is some love there. That's the essence of the military experience, really. But anyway, so I went from the Marine Corps to the National Guard to the reserves, where I got my 2 deployments in. So the inspiration for the book. I was at a prison called Camp Cropper, or what we call what ended up being called Fob Crapper for the book. So I'm in a gym in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and about 11:30 at night, I'm getting my go-go juice pre-workout in my gut. I'm talking to this old power lifter while I'm waiting. And we were talking, and I told him a story because he wanted to know what it was like to be in the military and where I was. So I told him the standard war story from when I was at Camp Cropper, and he's like, "Dude, you should write a book." And I'm like, and it was one of those rare moments where my brain just stopped spinning out of control. It just kind of came to a halt. I get on my ancient MacBook Pro, which I still have to this day. It's old. It's like a 2011 MacBook Pro. I got on there. And I get on their crappy Wi-Fi. I get 4 of my guys in Facebook Messenger, and I said, I want to tell our story. And I said, if you're 99% behind me, the story dies. This conversation dies right here. 3 minutes later, one of my guys that was with me in Baghdad, he says, "Do it. I got your back." 3 hours later, the other 3 guys chime in, "Do it. I got your back." That's how it all started. So, and by the way, I hate writing, but a lot of people have said I'm good at writing. So I more or less did it because they kind of nagged me into doing it to an extent. And my saintly grandmother in the book, Nabby, more or less ordained that I would write a book. And you did not question Nabby. You just didn't do it. So there you go.
You did what you were told.
But I loved her so much, I wasn't begrudging of her. I practically worshipped the ground she walked on.
So how did your relationship with her, that's your grandma?
Yeah.
How did your relationship with your grandma shape the person you are and influence your life?
She was an absolute force of nature. You did not, she was just very direct. She was forward, but there was a sweet and loving side to her that you had to really behave yourself to get to see, It's not that she didn't offer it willingly, but if you made her mad, you didn't see it for a while. Sort of like the eclipse we just had. You don't see them very often, so you got to really enjoy them while they're there.
That was her sweet side.
That was, but it was, there was kind of a transition part of her, which was an educational side, so that because she was a tour director as well, so she'd been the only places I had been that she had not been was war zones. That's the only place you really can't give a good tour, oh, hey, on the way, yeah. So she was a wonderful, sweet, and loving woman, but she was also firm because, obviously she was raised back in the day when they could still take the belt to your butt, and really adjust your attitude, So those
were the days.
Well, I mean, say what you will about him. At least we behaved ourselves. We ain't behaving ourselves these days. I promise you that much. But now she was a wonderful human being, and she was my standard, for what a woman should be. And I loved her. I miss her to this day. So yeah, she died on my second deployment, and I'm going to throw something in here about we missed each other the first time. My uncle in the book, he was Lee Greenwood. He died. He had dementia and shingles when he died.
Painful.
So, and I got another person I'm kind of taking care of as a favor who has dementia. So that guy is a constant remember of my uncle. And my uncle and I had not talked since that story in the book while I was home on emergency leave. And that just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
And I've still got to call my other uncle. And it's really, I talk in the book about my anger, and I liken it, forgive me for getting a little bit biblical, but I liken it to Nebuchadnezzar wandering around the wilderness, just acting like a wild animal.
It was one of my favorite stories.
Yeah. And the Nebuchadnezzar portion is a warning to you, because the dementia is the actual consequence of you not dealing with your trauma. That's what I'm thinking. And it's like I've got both of these just slapping me in the face, and I'm trying to kind of reconcile with a few people, and it's proving to be challenging because in the process of writing the book, I worked with people who were with me in Baghdad, and it went from simple confirmations of, hey, is this legit? Is this legit? Did I forget anything? To they turned into full-blown collaborations. Because originally it was just going to be part 2, the second juvenile murder. But then when I talked to them, part 2 got so big, I had to turn it into a part 1. Part 1 got so big with all the other collaborations. Part 3 came into existence as an overflow of short stories because I couldn't really adequately integrate them into the main plot of that story. So it just got all the way out of control.
Wow.
And I just managed it the best I could, because the problem is once you have collaborators, you have, as a writer, you have to protect them. In the process of protecting them as a writer, I made me some enemies because I was not pulling any punches. I was an insufferable prick in the process of defending my guys, my collaborators. And then when I took off my writer's hat and put on my publisher, my promoter's hat, all those people that I was mean to in the process of defending my guys were waiting there right for me. So yeah, it was a messy process.
Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the challenges that you had while you were writing this book?
Okay. I had no real editor. Okay, first of all, you have to have a plan.
Yes.
You have to have a plan, and you have to get educated on how the whole process works.
Yes.
I did neither of those. I just vomited up my soul into a laptop, and about 3 editors later, I got one editor through a local writers network here in North Carolina. I'm not saying he was not helpful, but he did not give me, because originally it was 260. The book was only 264-ish pages long, right? That first editor referred to it as 264 pages of white hot rage.
Okay.
And so I had one story at the end of the book about my childhood that was just to bookend it and be done with it. And he says, like, I need more of this. This is some of your best stuff. But he let me know what we'd like to call lateral limits. So it went from 264 to 420 because he gave me no lateral limits, and he didn't. So I just unloaded, which created more collaborators because I need more confirmations to make sure it was accurate. Because once it's in print forever, and you gotta get it right. And with my story with my guys in Baghdad, I incorporated all of the consequences of my stupidity or lack of integrity, because those people were most likely to, forgive me for saying it like this, they were the most likely to put bullets in me, because Camp Cropper was the ultimate example of what happens when communication between superior and subordinate dies from a complete lack of trust. Okay, when we're screaming at you, do this so these prisoners will stop killing each other or avoid killing each other, and you don't do that and they start killing each other, well, we ain't getting along at all. So it was largely on my own, doing this largely by the seat of my pants, doing this largely on a shoestring budget because I'm broke. I did the whole thing all the wrong ways, and the only thing I managed to do was get it published on Amazon. And don't even get me started on Amazon. At one point during an interview I did once, I literally got on X, formerly Twitter, and begged the Amazon founder, Bezos or whatever his name is, just sell this to Elon Musk, because at least he'll do it efficiently. He'll do it a lot better than you, because I'm with the nerds who hated him for what he did to the Lord of the Rings thing, because he screwed that up, but he'll never admit it. But yeah, all of those things, plus it caused me to bunker in and isolate really, 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 really bad. And what it also did, when you write a book, brain, filter, laptop, or notebook, I ripped out the filter because it became such an impediment to my ability to get the most authentic content out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not going to put it back in because it's not even haha, it's funny, cute thing. It's just, I just don't feel like not, and I do have a God-given gift of discernment that hasn't not been blown to bits. Please believe that. It's just, I just don't feel like putting it back in and catering to people who irritate me. So it's just easier to be a hermit and be blunt and have the friends who get me tolerate that as lovingly as they can.
Right.
So there you go.
You know, I know that your book provides a first-hand account of your experiences as a prison guard
Yeah.
at a transitional internment facility.
Yeah.
So during your deployment in Iraq, what motivated you to share these gut-wrenching stories to the world? I understand that, you know, somebody just said, hey, you need to write a book because they heard this story, but you decided that I'm not just going to share this story. I'm going to tell it to the world.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing about that. Okay. I had 2 deployments. The first deployment was what we call the gravy deployment. It was really easy. It's what you really want in a deployment. You want easy and boring and safe. You want easy, boring, and safe in a deployment. I mean,
Yeah.
it's soul
It makes
sucking,
sense.
but you come home alive and in one piece.
That's right. Your job is to come home
Alive and in one
piece.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first deployment really was kind of a bad thing because it was deceptively easy. So when I went into my second deployment, which was a little bit more reckless and stupid, because, okay, first deployment, 1 unit. I was in country 9 months and 10 days. I had a total of a year in, under contract for my first deployment. Second deployment, this is where things get kind of dicey. I was with 3 different units. If you ever try to contact me on April Fool's Day, I'm not talking to you because my orders for my second deployment were effective, no joke, April Fool's Day 2007. And I did not get home off the plane from demob, or where you transition back. Well, not really adequately transition back. You turn in your stuff and you do enough paperwork to make your head explode. I literally got home Christmas Eve Day, 2008. So 20 months, give or take a week. So it was 3 different units: Camp Cropper / Fob Crapper. That was the first unit. That's where all the dumb stuff happened. The second unit was a convoy security unit. I think it was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, out of there. That was where nothing really, really happened, but it kind of hardened all the trauma from the first unit. You know what I'm saying? And let it sink in. The last unit was a convoy recovery unit. So it was 5 months, 10 months. And I was not what we like to call numbed out because your op tempo, which means how hard and fast you were working, was as such where you lost track of time. You'd walk into the chow hall and you see decorations for St. Patrick's Day. Oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. Next thing you know, Memorial Day. Oh, wow, it's Memorial Day. And it's like yesterday for you. Wow. And then it's 4th of July. That's a week ago for you. It just turns into a blur. So I get home, and this next bit is in the book what I'm about to tell you. I was driving to my cousin's place, and I accidentally rear-ended a guy in a minivan. I had my Jeep Wrangler. I had one of those funky front bumpers that you can tie a cable to get you out if you're stuck in the mud. I rear-end him. Okay. Now, the thing about Baghdad, we were the only internment facility in all of Iraq that housed juveniles. He pulls his daughter out of the minivan. I start shaking and convulsing violently. I was having a flashback back to Baghdad because, again, we housed juveniles there, and it just I was this close to having a meltdown. And I went to my buddy's place, and he and his then wife let me just pour my guts out. And that was before my first inpatient treatment program up in Wisconsin. And once I had that meltdown, I just kind of started journaling a little bit here and there and talking about it a little bit here and there. But after my talk with my buddy, the Mr. White character, think Reservoir Dogs. I use that because, well, it was what I had to work with because I had to protect everybody's identity. So no, it was after that. After that talk with Mr. White, I started writing. Just got the laptop, got the notebook, just kind of went back and forth, and it just kind of went from there.
Wow. Quite an experience. And I'm thinking about all of the things you've gone through, all of your experiences, and because you've been deployed a few times, at least twice, I noticed, in Iraq and where else?
Just Iraq. When I was in the Marine Corps, we did what was called a med float. All I will say about that is my liver has not forgiven me for that. Every time I even look at a beer, my liver's like, try it and die, fat boy. Try it and die. Yeah. Not
anymore now.
The only thing I use beer for now is I have a cooking system I'm working on as a part of because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the book as a springboard for a couple of other projects to help veterans battle their isolation issues and rebuild their confidence and basic skills. One of my cooking commandments is if water is good, beer is better. So I don't really drink beer except to kind of commemorate people who have died. But the majority of the time I just dump it in food to extend the life of the marinade to make it taste better. So yeah.
Yes, I know beer is very good with some foods, especially when you're barbecuing. You can put it on whatever you have on the grill. Gives it a oomph.
Oh, yes, it does.
So you've been through a lot. What do you want people to take away from your book? What's one message that you want them to take away from your book?
I want them to, you have to process, and you have to process what you've been through, because like I mentioned before, the Nebuchadnezzar anger thing is real because it isolated me from so many people. The only people I really sought out were people who were as angry as I was. And after a while, the Nebuchadnezzar thing it becomes mindless. It becomes reactionary to the point where you're a barely functional human being. So it's processing and allowing yourself to hurt and go through it, but you're doing it with as much dignity as you can. Because if you don't have that dignity, you're not that dignity where it says, I'm going to go through it simply because I need to go through it to grow as a person.
Yeah.
That's what you need that with the end goal of re-entering society to where you can not hate people when you look at them, where not everybody is an insurgent, not everybody is a blithering idiot commander or blithering idiot supervisor that you just want to. We have a term in the Army called wall-to-wall counseling, which is basically code for an ass whooping. Okay.
Yes.
And here's the thing. In my job, I was the bad guy. I was the enforcer. My job was to be very mean. And through all of my processing, I came to hate what I became in the process of doing my job. So it's processing everything you need to process and making peace what you can make peace with, so you can live and you need to do it for the dignity of simply surviving it, so you can be that better person and be a good example to people and be helpful to people. And just there you go.
Do you find that you have processed things better and handled it better? Your healing process is much stronger than some of the people that you've served with?
I hate to say it, but yeah, because one of my guys, one of my collaborators literally said to me, before you and I started talking about this, I could not talk to anybody about this without being both drunk and stoned out of my mind as I told the story. So, and the beautiful thing about him is he went from as rage filled and out of his mind as I was, to this. Okay, granted, he still smokes weed, but he's this. There's a sweet, lovable teddy bear underneath the rage, and that's what we need you guys to understand about us. We need to really have a talk about what a veteran is. The dog and pony show you're sold by the media and everybody versus what we actually are.
Right.
That's a conversation that desperately needs to happen. Or that divide will never be dealt with. It'll never be bridged. So yeah.
You know, I asked that question because I've read several articles and I've studied this myself.
Yeah.
That telling your story is therapeutic. And the more you share what you've been through, the more healing you go through, and the more healed you are, the more you can fill those cracks. And so I would love for you to write up or ask your friends or your colleagues, your past, made from service, if they would like to write their story, and you create an anthology now so that they get the outlet that they need to be more complete, to be healed, or to start that process of healing. I think that you would help them facilitate their healing much faster.
It's happening, yes, but here's the thing: it's a really painful process. The healing process can be really painful. It's like it's like my neighbor has a pasture with several cows, and they're mean and ornery, so he has to have an electrified fence, and it's like that zap that just bites you really hard. And in a way, they already did that, collaborating with me, but I am creating a book for short. I'm trying to create a book of short stories, and I'll try to get more out of them. But here's the thing about collaborating with people: you will not know your active listening skills and your sensitivity. If you want to really, really hone those skills, do what I did, the way I did it with them, because you have to be incredibly sensitive. Here's the thing: you not only cannot censor them, you actually have to actively discourage them from censoring themselves. And it's a constant, mind-numbingly slow refinement process. And it really, healing is good, but the process in which you dredge it up and refine it and refine it and dredge it up and refine it, it's painful.
It's painful, but it's so necessary, especially to see, to hear your story and to hear where you've come from to where you are today. And you can easily get on a podcast and discuss this and give people an idea of what you've gone through and what some of your friends have gone through or your colleagues have gone through. And it's a story that they need to read. You guys really need to pick up this story, because, We Did Not Deserve the Crapper is not just about his story. It's about the story in all of us. The thing that is so painful that we have to come to get
right.
Find your Jesus, excuse me, find your Jesus moment. I think that's what it's called. And you come to Jesus moment. You have to come to the realization that you have to go through hard things sometimes. But when you go through hard things, there's a lesson to be learned from it.
Yeah. Here, I'll give you mine real quick. This was, so I'm walking. Okay. It's a big square. The compound is a big square, zone here, zone here, zone here, zone here. You got two little walkways in between the two zones on the side, because for reasons I don't understand. Okay. They had these little TVs. They could watch programming, whatever they wanted. So what they watched religious programming. And for reasons I will never understand, they loved them some Popeye the Sailor Man. Don't ask me to explain it. I don't get it. They love them some Popeye the Sailor Man. Okay.
Popeye is funny.
So, and then you got the main drag. Walking this kid down the main drag. He turns his head and he coughs at me. I grab him by the chin. I turn his head back the other way, and it turned in this weird waking dream moment where I just reached my head behind his and just snapped his neck. And I heard what I will simply refer to as the small, still voice of God say, "My son, you and I need to have a talk. That was not cool." And I just looked at him. I looked at the detainee, and he just looked straight ahead like, "Oh, wow, this dude's going to lose it." And I was right there. And that's what really, I guess, that was one of the moments in the book when I thought about it. It's like, that's the guy I'm trying to get away from. That's the guy I'm trying to make peace with. And with these interviews, you have to know when to back off and just kind of let things marinate, let things sit, because you don't do that right, you lose them forever. And then things go really bad. I mean, to this day, I have a friend of mine. I have two friends of mine. One's an old medic, retired medic, and the other one is prior service Navy. They literally, that and a couple other buddies too. Both of them are non-vets. I get checked on almost a daily basis because my isolation is that bad. Literally, the question is, have you left the house today? Where were you? Were you out of the house today? That's how bad my isolation still is. So, and then I'm proud and I'm stubborn, and the shame says them helping you get out of the house doesn't count. You have to do it again. And then I'm so emotionally fried that I just lay in the bed and I'm anxious and I'm angry about it. So yeah, this is what we struggle with. And I've had people ask me to do a podcast, and I'll probably start that back up again.
Yeah, people could tell their stories, you know.
Well, it's
so
to
important.
get the process started for them telling their story in a way that they don't. Again, you cannot, when you interview people or like if you're going to do what I did, you have to not only not censor them, you have to actively discourage them from censoring themselves to get the most raw, authentic content from here to there.
Right. I believe that's what you were able to do, because you did say that your book went from 268 pages
to 420-ish or 40-ish.
Well over 400.
And
so,
yeah.
So you had your time to just let everything out uncensored.
Well, here's the problem, though. Here's the problem with that, though. That's all fine and good for me, but when it gets to a publisher, the publisher wants to do what the publisher wants to do.
Well, we got to make it refined.
Well, refined,
not distill the story or make it less,
right?
But to make it so that it's easy for the audience to grasp the message from the story. So sometimes we can go on and on and on and say the same thing 10 different ways.
Right.
You can just edit it and say, you've said this already,
Yeah.
So editors, we do have a really important role to play, but we don't want to censor.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the problem for me. I got so protective of my guys. Like one of them, no joke. He's telling me the story when he was down in Buka. That was a prison on the Kuwaiti border. It was a town called Qasr. Those idiots actually built the prison on a landfill, so they wanted weapons. All they had to do was start digging. This is another one of my guys that I protected really hard. He was telling me a story about how the Wahhabis basically put out a hit on him in the prison. Okay. And I'm literally watching this dude convulse violently and basically have a panic attack just with tears streaming down his face. And that's the other guy I'm protecting. And I get really, really, really protective and mean when I think of those two guys. Those are my guys. Those are the guys I'll protect. And that's why I have a hard time with publishers sometimes, because if they give me indirect answers, I turn back into my call sign in Baghdad that was given to me by one of my team leaders is Spaz Master Flex. That is the rage-filled, caffeine-filled enforcer that I had to be to get that mission done. And the rest of my life has been every day is me not being him. And there are days it's like, okay, that was way too close for comfort. We got to get to a place where I can't get that close to being him again. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So there you
Well,
go.
I'm inviting you to come to Bold Publishing when you are writing your anthology, and we will certainly work closely with you guys to get
Well,
the best
could we
picture,
do it to
best
where
story.
we publish this book? Because
We have to talk.
because I need that to be the launch pad for the other projects, the anthology,
Uh-huh.
the cookbook, and I'm also doing what I will simply refer to as a hybrid brick oven smoker, because the hybrid brick oven smoker and the cookbook have to go together, because the cookbook gets you from your cave to the kitchen. The smoker gets you from the kitchen out of the house. And yes, I will rail unrepentantly against pellet smokers because they completely destroy the therapeutic value. Because you can just, it's a fire and forget weapon. You just turn it on, you go back in the house. It just, there's no point in it. Mine is manual, where you use actual wood and you actually have to keep an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting all these things together as my contribution to the veteran community, to say, here's how you're going to treat your isolation issues, because isolation issues are basically a stone's throw away from shoving the pistol under your chin, you know.
I believe you have written a wonderful book.
Mm-hmm.
The stories are strong, the
Mm-hmm.
passion is there, and
Mm-hmm.
you can continue to, you're using it as a launch pad
Mm-hmm.
already. And I think you can continue to just grow and, take it to wherever the next best thing can come out of. You've
Mm-hmm.
done that one, and, you did your best at the time, and we're going to make the next version even better. You did an
Mm-hmm.
amazing job. You told the story and you started your healing process, because even though you didn't think you were going to, you just thought you were just, telling a story because somebody said you should write a book. But
Mm-hmm.
look how much it has brought you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of you for going through the process, even though you didn't know what it would be like. You took a
Mm-hmm.
great leap and you did an amazing job. And I appreciate you for that.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate
I
that.
also appreciate you for your service. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to say thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
No problem. It's always awkward, so you just, no problem. There you go.
I know you've been in both the Marine and
Yeah.
the Army, so
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot to be thankful and to
Mm-hmm.
be grateful for you for.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm nervous about this World War III thing that's going on. We're in the
Mm,
process of getting that kicked off, and it's like, I'm scared for this country right now. And one of the reasons I really want to get this going, for one simple reason, is we're going to
yes.
have a lot of veterans coming back. We're the old heads now. My guys are the old heads, and we
Yes.
have to get along well enough, to coordinate well enough, to be able to get the veterans that'll be coming back from World War III what they need to deal with their stuff. That's my big thing, because we're going back to what's called force on force warfare, and that's going to be carnage on a level we haven't seen in a long time. And that's what I'm concerned about, helping them to where they can process trauma, because it's going to be ugly. It's going to be really ugly. So that's my other thing.
You're already an advocate for veterans, so I
Mm-hmm.
believe that you'll be very busy in this time, because it certainly looks like a lot is going on in the world, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're all going to be impacted and affected. But people on the front line, you guys, the guys that are sacrificing their lives and their families
Mm-hmm.
so that they can protect us, those are the guys that we really have to be there for. So if you can
Right.
continue to advocate for them the best way possible,
Mm-hmm.
and they will benefit from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's my thing. I'm trying to do it to where I'm just one part and one option, but the veteran community as a whole needs to put its pride and its stubbornness aside, to say,
Mhm.
we got a hot mission. We've got this important mission to help these veterans coming home, and we have to work together. So
Absolutely.
as few of them as possible fall through the cracks. We don't want that. So we've got to really learn to get along and work together.
Yes. Thank you so much for the part that you play. Thank you for writing this book. Tell the audience, where can they get this book?
Right now, it's just on Amazon. I'm trying to get it republished through a proper publisher again, so I can use it as the launch pad. Right now, it's just on Amazon, but we're looking to find a new publisher. Plus, I've got to get a new manuscript laptop to do all of this stuff because I'm not trying to start a brand new project on a 12 to 13-year-old laptop. It just ain't going to work. So I got to. It all, even the free stuff costs money at this point, and I've got to start getting the hang of fundraising so I can afford all this stuff because nothing is cheap anymore. It's all expensive.
Absolutely. But you found a publisher. You just landed in a publisher.
Okay.
So we'll talk off air.
All right, cool.
Now, you guys can get the book on Amazon right now.
Right now, yeah.
And of course, we'll update you on where you can get it, in the future. But right now, just get a copy and be supportive because, yes.
And write a review. I need to get to 20 reviews because one guy did not write the review.
You need to get to how many?
20-ish, 25.
Okay.
So write a review. One of my favorite ones was one my guy did. He's like, if trauma was he says, just look at the review that says trauma is a seafood is a cruise liner buffet. It's hilarious.
Oh wow!
It's hysterical.
We have a comedian.
Oh, he's the hippie teddy bear I mentioned before.
Ah, okay.
Yes, he's my guy.
Guys, please support, buy the book, write a review, and make it a 5-star review. Thank you very much. Now, there are 3 questions I love to ask all my guests before they go, because I like to know a little bit more about what you're planning to do in the future. That's one of the reasons why I came up with these questions. But I also know that you've been through so much and you can help the people that are listening. So what's one bold promise that you can share with the audience?
With regards to the book and all the stuff I'm trying to do, I promise, is God's my witness, I am going to help you rip the filter out between your brain and your mouth so you can get the most authentic content from here to there. That's what you're going to do. You're going to rip it out. You're going to do that. And the only challenge is you won't want to put it back in. That's the only danger because then you'll be mean to people. Get it?
And that's a bold promise.
Oh, borderline guarantee.
What's a bold statement you can share with the audience that you know will cause a paradigm shift?
The veteran community, what the media says the veteran community is versus, which is the dog and pony show, versus what the veteran community is, which is a mosh pit of dysfunction and love and that big brother sister meanness, but it's love. America needs to have that talk with the war fighters where you guys end up saying, we're done listening to these people that are giving us the dog and pony show. We're just going to come talk straight to you. That needs to happen if we're going to survive as a country.
Yes.
So yeah, the dog and pony show thing needs to die a horrible twitching death.
There's a lot of things that we need to do as a country to come together. You are absolutely right. What's a bold move that you'd like to make in the future?
I'm going to try and reconcile with a couple of my friends. And now one of them, his name is Goose. He was a sweet, lovable Viking hippie. And I was absolutely insufferable because I was apparently dealing with stroke symptoms. And my PTSD was just, I miss my guy Goose. And I want to tell him I'm sorry. And because he and I were going to collaborate on a project that I will say it involves me doing something really stupid and reckless and fun, and him helping me doing something stupid and reckless and fun.
And you're in for it.
Yeah. But it's going to cost a boatload of money. So all these projects are going to have to make me a boatload of money so I can pay for it all. And that's after I pimp out my Jeep and turn it into the company vehicle. So yeah, we'll get into that later too.
Goose, if you're listening, Gene's sorry, and he needs you so that you can finish that project you started.
Mm-hmm. That expensive, probably $300,000 project. Yeah.
Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your heart, sharing your story, and giving us a little bit of your world. You are amazing. Thank you for the work you do, for advocating for, your colleagues and the
Mm-hmm.
servicemen.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for writing that book. You've made a difference in someone's life. And let me tell you something, the ripple effect that you have already created is
Mm-hmm.
going to go far. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much.
Well, I just got to keep it going so we can keep helping veterans because we're all we got at this point. So, yeah.
Yes, you have to fight for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you would like to write a book, but you don't know where to start, check out my website, boldpublishings.com, and schedule an appointment to tell me your story and how you can share your lessons from your story to help someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.